within you, join the Empowering Perspective membership program today. Now, we're going to dive right back into this 2 week, well, now 3 week long conversation, which is all about navigating difficult conversations. And as always, we talk about the problem first, right? The problem is first and foremost, we struggle with the ability of having difficult conversations. We struggle being able to have differing opinions, but doing it in such a way that we have honor and respect for one another. We struggle with keeping our emotions from taking control of the conversation. We struggle remembering whether or not the other person that we're talking to, they're our brother, our sister, our cousin, our in-law, our outlaw, our significant other, whatever. The bottom line is when our emotions get involved, we forget that that person is a person of value and we believe that person is the enemy and we respond as such. So, with that being said, it takes us to our first talking point for this evening, which is balancing honesty and tact. Now, when it comes down to balancing honesty and tact, I think it's something that is very interesting because one of the key challenges in a difficult conversation is being honest while also being respectful and considerate. And striking this balance again is just the challenge. So, what I want to do is change it up a little bit, and I want to give you guys a scenario. So, here we go. You are a parent to two children, Maya, who is 14 years old, and Ryan, who is 10. Recently, Maya has been spending more time in her room and less time with the family. You've also noticed that she's been having mood swings and has become increasingly secretive, particularly concerning her online activities. One day, you unintentionally came across her social media account left open on the family computer and noticed some posts suggesting that she might be involved in online bullying. From the post, it appears she might be both a victim and a participant. As a parent, this discovery concerns you greatly as you understand the potential harm and long lasting impacts of such behavior. So, the first thing I want to ask you, gentlemen, is how can you approach this conversation with Maya?
I got boys. I'm gonna go to Roland. Coach like, nah, that dog don't hunt here. Go ahead, Chris.
I do not have any children, so I do not know. I can tell you how I might go about it. I would just simply sit her down and say, "Hey, young one, I you forgot to log out. Um, care to explain what is going on? Because it looks to me like people are bullying you, but you are also doing the bullying, and we do not do that in this house. So I need to know what the scenario is. Paint the picture for me and be honest. You are not in trouble yet. You are not in trouble yet. Be honest with me. What is this about?" And then go from there.
Okay.
I'm gonna take a stab before rolling because I got little girls. I got girls, but they none of them got social media, right? Not even my 8-year-old.
Chanel
Uh,
still a bully? Nah.
man, her brother's the puppet master. She just follows orders. Now we stop. Nah. Uh, but I was slightly take the same approach as Chris kind of brought up. I probably won't say you forgot to log out because I don't care about that part because I'm gonna check their passwords anyway. Uh, that's just me. Don't tell me about kids got privacy. They I pay for privacy. They don't. But I would definitely have the conversation and ask her to explain what's going on. Explain to her what the effects or not even explain to her because if she's a victim and she's a participant, the first thing I will ask her is to explain to me what are the effects to her when she's being bullied. How does she feel? and then reversing. Now, why are you doing it to others if you don't like it? Because we've all done it. We've all joined in to the gang in order to keep them off of us, right? Not the gang specifically, but many of us have jumped in to jump on somebody else when the jokes were on us, or vice versa. Um, so I would have her explain how she feels and start the conversation there, so she could see what she's doing to someone else. Because I think online bullying is a tough conversation, especially for those of us who didn't really have social media or none of that when we were kids. So we're trying to put ourselves into the mind and into the space of children who are actually experiencing something that we haven't as children or as teenagers.
Now, let me ask you this, because you said you would ask her to explain how she feels. What exactly do you mean when you say that?
Because we're saying that she's a victim and a participant. And as a victim, I want you to be able to express yourself to me, right? And the reason why it kind of put me in the thought when I said it is because, in part, I don't want her to feel victimized by me when I ask her about her feelings. I want her to be able to express her feelings to me, and not feel as if it was going to be spun back around. But I want her to explain to me how she feels in the position as the victim. Does it make it doesn't make you sad? Does it make you defensive? Does it make you what does it make you feel? Depressed? Because these are real emotions that you're going through. And I don't think children, and this I won't explain to her, but I don't think children have the proper skill set to navigate uh heavy emotional changes. I think that's something that we learn with time.
Okay. So using the downside of what she is going through as a teaching point to talk about the other side of what she is going through.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So, were you done yet before I jump in? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So because it's a bullying issue, you have to address it. We all know the potential and the risk and what can potentially happen when students and people get bullying. So you have to address it. You can't not address it. You can't. I think that's right. So first of all, you have to address it because it's bullying. Next, I'm looking at, she's spending less time with her family. She has mood swings, and she's been secretively doing things online. So she's 14. Her body's going through changes. She's probably in the ninth grade or so, like this. She's in high school. There's a lot going on with this 14-year-old woman right now, this little woman right here. Her body's probably already a woman already, just being real with it. And so as a parent, I think you have to allow a space to where she's going to feel comfortable talking about the situation. How you decide to do it as a parent, you know your child. You've been living with her for 14 years, right? So even though you know them, I say that you still may not know them. And if you're a parent, you understand what I'm saying. We think we know our children, but sometimes they act in ways and they have certain behaviors and display certain things that we like, really, is this my child? Like, I didn't raise you to be this way, But like I said, all of those things going in there, you have to address it. And I think that creating a safe place for her to have the conversation, say, hey, look, babe, I noticed there was something. Maybe you said before, say, hey, look, maybe I noticed something on the computer. You left it open and blah, blah, blah. Sometime tonight, what's a good time for you where we can address it? You know what I mean? That'll give her some time to maybe clear her head, not to have to jump right into it. That's one way. There's another way where you can jump right into it. But when you know your child, you're going to know if you should be able to jump into it right now, or if you need to give that child some space and create a safe place for her to have that conversation. Because remember, we don't know everything that's going on. It's possibly that she is the victim or the person doing the bullying. So I think it's really important that we get to the understanding and get her side about it, what is actually going on. So that's kind of where I got.
And I agree with everything each one of you guys said. And just to add to that, like you said, I got grown kids, so I I mean, and you think in hindsight and all that other stuff, but I think my initial reaction is like, man, I would see where I went wrong, where my child couldn't come and talk to me. So I would want to make sure that I provided that safe space, that we talk now, not we talk later, not when you feel like it, because this could boil up and end up being some Columbine issue or something like that. So I would want to know exactly what's going on so that we can actually handle it, not so we can table it for later. And because kids can be cruel, and I understand that. And these latter generations of children, they really can't handle what we went through. So it's like they aren't, built the same with this. And not that that's a good thing, but they may need space to talk, may need that time to open up and say, well, this person did this. And then and what you can't do is minimize what they said, minimize whatever's going on, because we tend to, well, that ain't nothing. And so because it wouldn't be anything to us, we like to minimize it. So then they feel like, dang, I'm wrong for feeling like I'm feeling, just because we've been callous to how society ruins children and ruins lives and stuff. I think we need to first start that open dialogue. Computer gone for right now, because there are consequences, and she didn't do right. If she sent anything wrong, computer's gone right now. We gonna talk about it and get to the root of it so that we can see how to go forward and navigating through whatever this situation is that has her emotionally, physically, and everything. She's out of her own sorts.
I'm loving everything that I'm hearing. Um, and I think for most people, I think the most difficult part, well, I can't say most people, that's it's too general. I think some people will probably find it difficult to understand where to start. And for me, I don't like to hold the information that I'm currently aware of um, as though I'm keeping it in my back pocket and then bringing my child to the conversation and then set the conditions to where my child can potentially lie. Because for me, in my opinion, and somebody may think different, and that's okay. I'm good with that. Um, in my opinion, I think I just set the conditions for my child to lie if I did that. Now, did I make them lie? No, I didn't. But why not present them the information? And I'm not challenging anything anyone is saying. I'm just offering this as an icebreaker for this conversation. Why not present the information in its raw form and say, can we talk about this? Because I'm a little concerned with what I'm seeing here. So now I think this kind of gets after what you just now said, Roland. This kind of I'm going into this conversation empathy first because I'm concerned. Can we talk about this because this concerns me? And if you are being bullied, I need to understand what is going on. So can you kind of share this with me so I can have a complete understanding? Now I want to talk about. I think it was Gaddy. You said this, and I'm spot on. I'm with you, bro. I want to address this one first because I need my child to understand that I care for them. I love them. Like I'm concerned right now. After
Hey,
we,
Coach,
yes, sir.
I got a clarifying question, though, if that's okay. So,
Okay.
all right. So after you set the stage, do you have the conversation then, or do you allow her some space and maybe set the tone, and maybe we have the conversation later, or are you having the conversation then?
No, we're gonna talk about it right now.
Right now, okay,
We're gonna talk about it right now.
okay.
And I have learned, and thank you for asking that question. That's a good question. I have learned to be the king of awkward silence. So when I present it and say and ask, can we talk about this? Them being quiet isn't them escaping the conversation or me having some anxiety because silence exists, right? Allow the silence to exist because they may be going over their thoughts and coming to grips with how they want to respond to the question. That's okay. I'm okay with them being quiet so that they can organize their thoughts to get to the conversation. But I want to talk about them being bullied first because this is against my child. After we talk about them being bullied, now I want to talk about them bullying because we've entertained everything as it pertains to you, how you feel, what you're going through, the secondary and tertiary effects. Watch out there, Roland. Secondary and tertiary effects when it comes down to what you're going through. Now, let's talk about it on the other side when you're putting somebody else through it. Now, again, I'm not saying that is the way, the only way. I'm just saying that that's how I would handle it. Your guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I think that you initially have to like don't sit on the information, don't hold it in your back pocket. If you already know what's going on, like you definitely need to mention it. You know what I mean? I see both ways. I definitely see talking about it then. I also understand that maybe sometimes people are not in the space, and I'm not like I'm the way I have been. Right on it right then. But as a counselor, sometimes with certain things, I'll let things sit or linger a little bit. And maybe that's where there's a little bit, not necessarily confusion, but a little bit of differences of thoughts and perspectives about the same thing.
No, no, and you're right. And again, I'm not saying that you're wrong
Yeah.
if you want to allow it to sit for a minute. Because let's
Mhm.
just be honest. On the other side, if I see it and my first emotion is anger, I need to wait.
I need to
I
wait.
don't need
Yep.
to address it right now. So
Mhm.
that's another thing. The delayed
Great point.
conversation is based upon me and how I am feeling in that moment. Because let's just be honest, I didn't teach my child, I didn't raise my child to be a bully. Now I see, or at least I don't think I did, but subconsciously I might be a bully in my own house. We also need to address that as well. If I am displaying that within that in teaching bullying techniques, then this is the opportunity for my child to share that with me. So we can just be completely honest across the board. Chris, it looked like you want to say something, brother, and I think I cut you off.
You actually said it. You do not want to bully your child into talking to you after you just saw her getting bullied.
Yeah.
The worst thing that you can do, that is the worst thing that can happen. Something that your peers are doing coming from your parents, the people that you are supposed to be able to come to with anything. I believe that this all starts with trust. You have to build that trust between your child and yourself, because if a child trusts you, they will tell you anything.
I love it.
Now, I think in that same instance, I think first I would help her understand the gravity of the situation, where it could go. And I'm a person where if it's two children involved, I'm involving parents.
Yeah, go get your mom. Better yet, go
Right.
get your dad.
So I don't care what kids say. I'm
Yeah.
involving parents. So now we're all, because we all got a bill, and I'm not one of them that my kid, they crap go. No, I know my kid may have some mistakes too. So I want to, get it all in the open so that it doesn't escalate to something else. And when I involve parents, I'm letting them know, hey, one, you're not gonna make me look like a fool. I don't care if you're wrong. That's cool. We can deal with that. But one thing we don't do is lie. We're gonna tell the truth, get it out in the open, and we're gonna walk through it. And as that's part of being an adult. This child is 14, and I was doing some things like I tell people. I was having my first kid at 14. So, what you're doing. You're just not mature enough to handle what you're doing sometimes. And when you're not mature enough to handle it, sometimes it leads to other things. And that's what we're trying to correct and stop right now.
That is why I started what I said was, you are not in trouble yet, because I do not know the circumstances. I cannot ground you. I cannot do anything unless you tell me what happened. And I need you to be honest with me. You are not in trouble. I just saw this. It is alarming. Plus, you are spending a lot of time away from us when you used to really be around. I understand you're 14. You're going through some things. You are probably in that stage where you don't want to be up under dad. You don't want to be up under mom. You need your own space to figure some things out. That is okay. That is part of growing up. And you're probably in high school right now. So you're going through those changes as well. However, this right here is alarming. Have you seen the news in the last couple of years? Have you seen these kids unaliving themselves based off of what is being said on the internet? Have you seen these kids going to get guns and lighting up an entire school because of what a handful of people said? Do you want this to be the outcome? I need you to talk to me. Let me know what this is, and then we will address it from there. And while you are at it, since I have this computer up, go ahead and inbox your friends and tell them that your father wants to talk to their parents. We all got to sit down because this turns into a community thing. It is not just on my daughter. This is a village thing. You understand what I'm saying? So the village needs to come together and have a resolution.
And I, for one, like the fact that you guys mentioned the parents, but and I want to tell, because again, for younger parents out there who may experience this later on down the line, these are all valuable talking points. I think the timing, I think when it comes down to this conversation, timing is everything. I don't want to get the parents, the other side, the other parent involved too soon. You know what I'm saying? I need to understand the parameters of this entire situation. We need to have a conversation, dialogue going back and forth between me and my child. So I am keenly aware of this situation, how it started, how it escalated to this. Why did you think this was a good thing to do? All of this stuff, everything. And then after we talk about it, all, both sides, my child being bullying and my child bullying, I need to talk to the parents. First and foremost, for me, I want to talk to the parents without the child first, because I think it's important that I just make them aware and say, we need to handle this. I'm not telling you how to parent your child, but I want us to handle this gently because of everything Chris just said. Right? You don't want to go in there both guns blazing, because now when you put the child in some sense of emotional distress, given all of the other things that they got going on, and you guys know it, we've all been there, right? When you're in those young adolescent years, you got all types of things. All of your synaptic sensors are just firing. You got all kind of things going on. You got people of the opposite sex. What I'm going to do after school? This person don't like me no more. Like all the stuff, and now you factor in what you were talking about previously, social media. So you mean to tell me like, oh, and I got my phone in class and the teacher don't want me on my phone. And I seen on social media the other day when there was a teacher and a kid fighting. So it's like all of this stuff going on. So, just ask the other parents, say, hey, can we talk? Because I discovered something, and I think we need to collaborate on how we handle the situation going forward.
And it cannot be combative.
Gotta have tact
Cannot
when
be
you go over there
combative.
and knock on that door.
Exactly. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so, I found this on my daughter's computer. Your children are involved. I got what she said, but this is what it is. We need to talk about this. Let's talk. I am not here to fight you. I am not one of these ghetto hood booger parents out here. I actually love my daughter. So we need to figure this out, because we cannot have what we see on the news in our neighborhoods and in our schools. And we cannot allow our children to be the catalyst. That cannot happen. At least my daughter will not be a part of this. So let's talk.
I love it. Appreciate your guys' response. Let's grab some stuff from the chats, because man, they're over here lighting it up. Let's start. Yeah, Michelle Ray said, I would approach my child from a place of empathy and concern. I would allow the door and ask if they are okay and if there's something they want to tell me. And great point, Michelle. And I think I understand exactly what you're saying in its entirety. Um, I like the fact that you would open the door. I think that's what you were saying. You would open the door and ask if if something they want to tell me. But for me, and again, I'm not saying that you're wrong, but for me, I want to present the information, because again, I don't want to set my child up to, because you got to realize some kids are nervous and they could be scared. And, a question like that out of the blue, it's like, uh-oh, Dad asking me this question, I don't know what's going on. Mom asked me this question, that means something's wrong. Because kids are smart. When you asking a question, they already know that you know something. They're trying to figure out what is it that you know that I haven't told you yet. So which version I need to tell you right now so that I can appease the fact that you know something. So they're trying to figure it out. So I just want to peel back all the red tape. Let's just get down to business. Here's this thing. I just discovered this. Can you tell me about this? And so that would be my perspective. A great point. I'm glad you brought that to the table. Cassandra said we will have a deep discussion and discover what is going on that may cause the bullying. And secondly, why would you think that it is cool to make a person feel that way? Yeah, that's what we're going to get to eventually. And I like that fact. Like we got to look at both sides of it, especially the side where you're being bullied. Not that that's more important than you bullying another child, but I want to talk about you being bullied first because that's what's going to soften the conversation. If I talk about them bullying first, they ain't gonna really want to talk about them being bullied because they're gonna feel like they were being chastised every time, the whole time leading up to that point. So I want to talk the empathetic side first, the part that concerns them, and then that can be a springboard into the next version of the conversation. So great point. King Coop, good to see you, brother, and welcome to the conversation. I will listen to my child and approach them and listen to how they are feeling and ask if they are okay and let them know that no matter what, I'll be there for them and stick by them. Absolutely. Great point. Love it. Appreciate it, brother. Go ahead.
That is good to let them know that you will be there for them and that you will stick by them. But you also have to let them know that they will be held accountable if they are wrong. A lot of children think when they hear, I'll be there for you no matter what, and I'll stick by you no matter what, that means I can do whatever I can do whatever I want, and my parents will be okay with it. That is something that we need to work on as a community as well. If your child is wrong, they are wrong. Hold them accountable. Still love them, but hold them accountable.
That same situation kind of happened with my father and me. When I was in high school, I had to repeat biology class because I had too many absences. So when I was in the class, it was like I knew everything. I would hurry up and finish, and I'm in there running my mouth. So the teacher, she said something to me, and then I said something to her. I was disrespectful. And then she just said, "Oh, I hate you." And truthfully, it hurt my feelings. And I said, "I hate you too." And I used the phrase for a female dog after. So I got kicked out. I had to bring a parent up there. I had to find one of them, got my father. My father, we walking up to the school, and he telling me, "Oh, she did this." Yeah, he all on my side. When we got in front of the principal and the teacher, he went in on me. I'm looking like, where did this come from? But he was in the right because I disrespected an adult and in school and yada yada. So that is one of those situations where if you tell your kids you got their back, they looking for you no matter what. I could be wrong. We're gonna be wrong together. You do got to make sure you let them know, hey, if you're right, I'm with you 100%. But if you're wrong, you got to pay the piper.
Absolutely. Good.
And from just an educational perspective, like what if those things are going on outside of the school, if they cause disruption in the school, your child can also be suspended for that, even though it happened outside.
Absolutely. I think I may have went through that when I was younger. I was the bully though. So yeah. So moving on. so Cassandra said, I have personally dealt with this issue and let my children know what happened when that happened to me as a young adult. Absolutely. Good point. And it's always good to use your experience to help them to understand that not only I'm your parent, I dealt with some of these things that you had to deal with as well. King Coop said, exactly. We never know what is going on, so we have to keep a close eye on things and let the kids know that it's a safe space and that they can let us know what is going on in their minds. Absolutely. I think we got time for a few more before we need to move on. What if she shuts down and don't talk about it with you? That's a good question. Let me let the gentleman respond to that first.
I'm gonna jump out there.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going in. I couldn't even mute my mic fast enough. No, I'm joking. No, but I think this is why it's important that we're talking about tact and honesty, right? Because I'm with Coach when it comes to putting everything out there, but we have to ensure, like who was it that put up empathy, that we go into it with that in mind, because they will shut down if they feel like they're being attacked or they are about to be punished or repercussions is coming. And so for me, I believe in approaching it. And yeah, we do talk right now, and you have to make it uncomfortable, because that's what crucial conversations are. They're uncomfortable.
But she
And,
shut down. She ain't talking to you. She shut down.
and
So how do you push the
so
conversation if she shut down?
what I'm talking about is the preventive maintenance of shutting down, because they will shut down if they feel like they're being attacked or they feel like they're about to be in trouble.
Or
So
or because she's 14 and she having
I-
mood swings.
she could be 14, but if you let her know that you can trust her in this conversation, in your approach to this conversation, she will eventually open up. You continue to teach, you continue to give your part, but she's going to speak. And I get it. You can't hold her captive and you can't lock the door, right? You give her time. That's all right. Go ahead to your room. Like Roland said, that laptop coming with me, or whatever device you got is coming with me. And then we're going to readdress this again later. But I think the problem is we expecting parents, when we say, I'm coming, I'm putting everything I know out on the table. I think a lot of people are expecting, especially fathers, to come with an attacking mindset, but that's not what we're saying. And so I think that will keep them from shutting down.
Well, when I had teenage daughters in the house, my oldest, if I wanted the truth about anything, 5 kids in the house, I want the truth, I'm going to one child. The rest of them gonna lie like a rug. My oldest daughter, she, no matter what it was, didn't care how, it was like she was gonna tell the truth, because she didn't want to go through all of the, because she was my responsible child. She was, she was gonna tell the truth. And I think if you feel you gonna make me go away simply because I'm shutting down and you are feeling yourself as a teenager, that's not how we do it in this house. We move a certain way, and as a young adult, I'm gonna explain to her. As a young adult, this is what I expect. Now, if you're wrong, you're wrong. You're right, you're right. Cool. We got to deal with the problem. We can't hide it. It's here, so you got to deal with it. I'm gonna sit here until until you're ready.
I have all the time in the world. How much time do you have? I do not have to go to school in the morning. You do.
I told you
Yeah,
How
earlier.
much time do you have?
Yeah.
Because we are going to discuss this, because this is too important. If she shuts down, this is where I emphasize what you are doing is way too important than you getting in trouble right now, because of the ramifications that could happen. As I said earlier, have you seen the news? Have you seen social media? Have you read these stories? You cannot shut down when it's something this is big, because of the ramifications. And
Yeah.
you cannot be a part of this because I love you too much. I cannot allow this. So I need you to talk to me. So we are going to sit here and stare at each other in the face until you decide you want to talk. I already told you that you are not in trouble, but the more you shut down, and the more you don't talk to me about this issue, there might be some ramifications. And they are only going to be here because you are not talking to me about this huge issue. I think the weight of the issue must be put on their shoulders as well. They must understand the gravity of the situation. And they also need to understand that you are not chastising them because you don't know what's going on. You're not in trouble. There's no need for you to shut down. There's no need for you to get quiet right now. You weren't quiet when you were typing on this here computer. Talk to me.
And so that could be a sign that she might be guilty. Might, because you know your child better than anyone knows your child, right? You might just have that one child that shuts down. I have my oldest daughter. No matter what you ask her, she knows she's in the wrong. She can't say a word. She talk any other. If you want to know what somebody else did, you ask her. But if she did something, if I say, "Hey, Chanel, tell me what happened," and she's this, I know 100% she's the one at fault, or she at least believes she
had them Karen tears.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Snitches
You know,
And you know what's funny? I have a lot of friends that are girl dads, and for some strange reason, they cannot get past those tears from their baby girl. And I'm
I
like,
can.
really?
Yes, sir. I grew up in a house full of women, so I know what wolf tickets sound like. No, siree.
So, wanting to make sure I stay to the question though, because we got to realize she said it doesn't happen. She shuts down, right? I think going back to what was said, I like Chris' perspective because I said earlier that I am the king of awkward silence, and I say that because shutting down is welcome. You can shut down. I am just going to wait on you to open back up, and I am going to ask in the midst of you shutting down, some questions to kind of get you back into the game. What are you feeling right now? Why is this silence existing right now? What's going on? What's going on in your mind? Because those things are important. Then shutting down is a reaction. And in some cases, there could be a number of reasons why the reaction exists. It could be a reaction because they don't know how to respond to adversity. It could be a reaction in some instances because they don't necessarily get their way. It could be a reaction because they are fearful of the outcome of this thing, this whole conversation. You don't know why they're shutting down. I think if we go into the fortune telling side of it, where we already made the answer up in our head and we're just going to project it in a scenario, I think we're doing them a great disservice as well as ourselves, because we will move from that point on throughout this conversation through the lens of looking at them as the guilty party and not necessarily knowing the entirety of it. They may be protecting a close friend of theirs that they don't want to give up. You see what I'm saying? So we, especially as parents, and that's what I'm addressing specifically, we have to be careful, because as soon as we get into fortune telling, we're going to start moving that direction and start accusing the child, and we don't know the entirety of the situation. So I'm like the fact of being silent and holding silence long enough till they come out of that shell and start talking.
I looked at it as, you want me? So for me, I saw it all of those ways, but this is kind of more so for a parent who may want to take a kinder, gentler approach, right? And this probably comes from the counselor side of me. I think that like Coach, you just mentioned that, why she's shutting down. Maybe she's trying to protect somebody else. Maybe she feels like that, she's dishonored the family, or she's brought shame, or she's hurt you or something, and she's not ready to go further at that moment. So you have to know your child. I think that's very, very key in all of this. No matter what you do, no matter what talking point you decide to look at, and who you choose to rock with in this conversation or whatever, you have to remember at the end of the day, you have to know your child. The better you know your child, the better relationship you have with your child, the better and the more accurate you're going to be able to deal with this question based off, if this situation happens. So I think one of the things that a parent could do is that understand and try to figure out, why are you shutting down? Hey, baby, what's going on? Why you shut down? Was it this? And maybe that would bring out the reason why, and it may provoke her coming out of that and wanting to talk, because maybe she feel like she's been hurt now. Who knows why? She's 14 and she's moody, right? So that's part of it too. But if you decide at some point that the wait has gone long enough, if the next morning you got to go to work, I think that maybe you got a plan to say, hey, look, this time at this date, we're going to sit back and we're going to have this conversation. This is what you need to bring to the table or something like that. I don't know. But what I'm saying is that if you are the parent who don't want to address it right now, you need to have a plan for if you're going to address it at a later date. And it needs to be precise, and it needs to be make sure that you attend. You know what I mean? So it's like you say, hey, look, we're going to get back together tonight and we're going to take a break for 2 hours, but we're going to have this conversation. All right. So at 8 o'clock tonight, we're going to have it. We're going to come in your room. You know, I'm going to bring you some ice cream, whatever. I don't know, whatever it is you need to do to make sure that you had a conversation. Like I said, you know your daughter better than anybody else, you know. So like I said, if you are going to prolong the conversation or have it later, you need to be specific about a date and time that you're going to have it.
Outstanding.
No, go ahead. Oh,
outstanding. Love it. You guys are literally, I mean, like listening to your responses to this, man. It is our sheer desire that somebody, whoever, if you have younger children, I hope we gave you enough ammunition just in case this happens in your life. And who knows, based upon some of the things that you've got, you know, you may have a friend that may encounter something of this nature as well. So yeah, that's awesome. So again, thank you guys for doing that. Teresa Austin, Miss Teresa Austin, thank you so much. We appreciate you and value you. Definitely appreciate your support. So moving on to the next question. How can mishandling honesty and tact impact the conversation and relationship? And as you're thinking about this question, think about it in perspective of Maya.
She's not going to want to talk to you. Period. She is not going to want to talk to you if you mishandle this. She is not going to trust you. She is not going to come to you with anything. If anything, she's going to come to somebody else, and that somebody else is going to have to come to you. And you do not want a middleman in your relationship with your kids. You do not want that. She will not trust you. And that is what it boils
if you
down
have
to.
Daughters. But if you have daughters, you want to be the man that they can come talk to. You don't want your daughters running up on, because some little slick dude, just like you were slick, gonna be talking to your daughter in her ear, telling her all this other stuff, and she's gonna gain a sense of trust for that person, and that person may not have the best intentions, whereas your intentions are to help build her up. Their intentions are to see what they can get, maybe to see what they can get. And if it's most of the time, kids listen to their friends more than they do their parents. So if they listen to somebody who's just as dumb as they are, or just as ignorant as they are, when it comes to things, they aren't going to learn. They're going to see, how can I get back? What can I do to get at them? And then that's just digging a deeper ditch. And they, like Chris said, they're going to turn against you.
You could lose your daughter altogether. Chris talked about it. People deleting themselves and unliving and different things like that. If you don't address it, it's a bullying issue. You have to address it. And then if you screw it up, you just add it to the freaking everything that was going on top of that. So you have to be honest. You have to be tactful when you approaching this conversation, and your relationship and possibly your child may be on the line. So you better get to learning, better read some John Maxwell books or watch some Empowering Perspective podcasts or something and figure this thing out.
Or get out of your ego and understand that your child has feelings too.
Yeah. I mean, life or death situation.
This is not about you as a parent. Not in this instance. This is about your child being a bully or being bullied. This is not about your ego and thinking that you know it all. You need to figure some things out. Get out of your ego and listen to your child. Your child needs to trust you as a parent. I say this all the time, and I said this previously. Your child did not ask to be here. You made the selfish choice to bring that child into this world. So it's your responsibility to make sure that door is wide open with no restrictions, because that child did not ask for this. You asked for it for them. Get out of your ego. It ain't about you.
So then do we blame the grandparents then?
Where did the grandparents come from?
No, I'm being funny because every time I hear that statement, because I didn't ask to be here either didn't mean that I lose responsibility in my life. And I think sometimes, and the reason why I'm bringing that up is not really to attack Chris. I was being funny, but I bring it up because a lot of people take that as an excuse of why we spoil you children, right? Because they didn't ask to be here. So I never tell them no. I never let them feel consequences, right? And that's why every time I hear that statement, I didn't ask to be here, I'm like, I mean, they didn't ask to be here. I go back to this reel I saw this girl, a grown woman, 20-something years old, thinking her parents took her parents to court so that they can pay her every month because she didn't ask to be here. I'm like, well, then maybe they need to sue the grandparents to pay that child support to that grown 28-year-old child because they didn't ask to be here. Like, you get what I'm saying? So
I understand what you were saying, but what I am saying is this specific situation right here is not about you as a parent being right. It's about you as a parent understanding that your child needs something from you because this is big. It ain't about you.
I understand that, but what I'm saying, it's about teaching. It's about at every moment of parenting. We have to learn how to take these situations and become mentors and guides, right? So her not asking to be here does not negate me teaching her responsibility, right? So that goes with when we talk about tact, right? My tact has to match the scenario, right? If I don't know what's going on, I don't know what's going on. So I don't approach it hostile. I don't approach it like everything is okay. I approach it with the seriousness that it is, but in the way that she also understands that I am here and I'm going to listen. But we have to be able to evolve with the scenario. Now, when it comes to the honesty, I think that's why I find Coach's statement before so important, that I lay everything out on the table. Because sometimes when children feel like, because I've seen it, it's happened to me, and I felt like I was on the verge of doing it before, to where I approach a situation and I hide my hand of what I know, and then when I catch the child in a lie, bam, I got you, and now the child shuts down anytime you're trying to have a serious conversation with them, you know. So for me, that honesty is more of you lose the opportunity to be a mentor and a teacher to your child in the future, and that's the approach I take. So that's the only point that I'm making when we bring out that statement. It's never about me as a parent, right? Because my job as a parent is to parent that child. It's never about me in this scenario or any scenario. I get that, but I'm careful with that statement simply because a lot of parents use it as a cop-out to teach responsibility and to mentor these children to be young adults.
You disagree with me without agreeing with me.
Yeah, because as a parent, you can never alleviate the responsibility of their actions, but you got to make sure that you build responsible children, because when you don't, you have situations like was playing on the internet last week where the boy couldn't go outside and he
shattered all of those windows, and he was threatening his mom, saying, "Come whoop me, I dare you."
Yeah. See, now that's somebody who you can't parent a child once they get into them teenage years. Like a lot of people say, well, I'll wait until he's older, till she's older. No, once you do that, you lost them. It's like trying to train a dog or something. Once it becomes an adult, you can't do it. You know, it's harder like that. So you train them early so that they can have the respect, so they can have the self-respect, and then they can come and talk to you. And then later on in this situation, whereas the girl is scared or going through some things, now we may have to bring somebody else in, but first we gotta get to the root of the problem.
Yeah, let me get my point on this. Let me
go ahead. Okay.
Yeah, let me get my point on this, because we still got some other topics to jump on. As a parent, you got two things that you really need to do as a parent. And I'm telling you, I didn't get this revelation until all of my kids are grown. So for any younger parents out there, if you don't get anything else as a parenting tip, that's what I'm gonna call it, not advice, just a tip. This is what I would share. Parents are responsible for giving their children a clear sense of reality. That's one of the most important things that you can do as a parent. That way, that child does not go through life looking at life through the lens of a delusional state or some type of fictitious concept that they've created in their head, and it will never pan out because there is no principle to support their own delusion. So parents give their kids a clear sense of reality. And secondly, parents exercise faith to hold the space of an unrealized future for that child. Children do not necessarily have the emotional stability to project a clear sense of the future they want. And you've seen it growing up. What do you want to be when I grow up? I want to be this. I want to be that. And they only regurgitate what they're seeing in the future. So as a parent, what you're doing is you are teaching that child, but you're holding the space of faith for their future until they move into realization. That is the two most important things that they do. Now, there are some, that those were specified. There are some implied tasks in there as well, right? Because if I bring faith to the conversation, you must introduce them to the author of faith. But that's a whole nother conversation. So all great points, and I greatly appreciate you guys bringing that to the table. But we need to transition because time is, I don't know, it seems like time is on double time tonight. All right. So the next point is called fear of retaliation or negative consequences. And I believe that this is probably one of the biggest ones simply because this is the most alarming one. In some cases, people fear that speaking up might lead to retaliation or negative consequences, especially in a workplace setting and in a home setting as well. So that being said, here's the scenario for fear of retaliation. You're in a long-term romantic relationship with a partner you deeply love. Over the years, you've shared many experiences, good and bad, and have built a life together. However, recently you've observed a change in your partner's behavior, right? Now it's getting good. It's so good I done lost my place. All right, so yep, so in the partner's behavior, okay, got it. They seem more distant, less attentive, and occasionally you've noticed them tell small, seemingly unimportant lies. One day, a mutual friend who is quite close to you shares a troubling observation. They tell you they saw your partner at a restaurant having an intimate dinner with someone you don't know. They are reluctant to stir up trouble, but thought it was right for you to know. That being said, gentlemen, the issue is how do you approach this conversation with your partner while minimizing the risk of retaliation or negative consequences?
Do you really want me to answer this question, sir? Do you
That's why I just sat
really
back and smiled.
want me
I said
to
let Chris
answer
go
this
first.
question? I am in a
Amen.
long-term relationship with my partner. We have shared a lot of experiences, and now she is becoming distant, and she's lying to me. And then one of my partners come to me and say, "Hey, bruh, I saw old girl out. I don't know this dude, but it seems like she was having a really good time." First, I would say, all right, which friend is this? Because this could be a friend that wants my girl. So I have to get that out of the way first. Who is this friend? If it's the day ones and they come to me, hey, my homie saw you out with this dude and you lying to me. I know you are lying to me because I know you. I have taken the time out to learn you. I know you. What is going on? And do not lie to me, because if you lie to me, then I am just going to leave you where you stand. Period. I am out, because if you lie to me, you do not love me, and you cannot lie to somebody like that you love. Those two things cannot occupy the same space at the same time. Why are you lying to me when you know you do not have to? Why are you out with this man and you could not tell me that you were out with this man? You tell me everything else. Why are you lying to me about this, and this? What is going on? Let's get to the root of this. If you are not happy here, bye. I will help you pack. I am not afraid of taking a loss, and you will not manipulate me with tears. Be honest, because I am not going to patronize you and make it seem like you are not the intelligent woman that I fell in love with. Let's get this over with. And if that means that you and I part ways, goodbye. And it'll hurt like hell. I will probably curl up in the ball and cry like a baby because you are not here. This home will probably feel empty because you are not here. But I would rather go through that than have you feel like you have to do all of these things behind my back and not come to me. I am not afraid of taking a loss.
I think first I would cut on my slow jams. No, let me stop. I ain't gonna be silly.
The Quiet Storm with Roland Walker.
Yeah. Realistically, you know, it's just hearsay, but I want to know. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put on Inspector Gadget hat. I'm trying to see where the things don't match, and then we got to have a conversation. And I like to be direct. Hey, because I can't hold nothing. I ain't one of the people that can just sit back and look and not say nothing. Once I know something, I gotta ask a question. Truthfully, be straight up with me, because lives are involved here, and stability. You never know a person's mental stability. I might be crazy, and you messing around with crazy, and then crazy show up. So I wouldn't want that. So instead of doing that, be straight up with me, talk to me, and let's get it out the way. And like Chris said, if you gotta, bounce, that's fine. It'll be amicable, and yeah, we gonna have to have a conversation. Whether somebody want it or not, we gonna have a conversation, because this ain't gonna sit well with me. I ain't sitting there laying there acting like I don't know something and all that other stuff. I can't do that.
All right, I'm gonna take a different approach to it. And Chris, you said you know your lady, right? You tell me everything else. Roland kind of hit the same thing too, but you guys both went to the negative. So if you know your lady and your lady ain't doing like that, maybe your lady is planning a surprise birthday party for you. Maybe she's out lying, doing these little lies because she ain't trying to let you know. Maybe she's at the dinner, which the guy said intimate. Maybe they're not being intimate. Maybe that's what his perception was. Maybe they're over there having coffee or eating, and they're talking about the menu or the food that they're going to have at your surprise 60th birthday party. You know what I'm saying? So I say that to say that if you know your lady, then why automatically jump to the negative? If you know your lady, you've been with her for years, you know that it's probably, hey, this ain't my lady. You do address it, absolutely, 100%. You do have the conversation, but you bring it up and say, hey, look, this is what's going on. Like Coach said, I'm bringing everything to the table. This is what I saw. Yada 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 yada. I've been noticing, and you have the conversation. Hopefully, she was planning my birthday party, but if not, like Chris said, there's the other side of that.
I'm trying to speak realistic.
She would be distant if she was planning my birthday party.
Yeah.
Realistically, I'm not coming calm. Hey, baby, yeah, this, that, and other. It ain't gonna work out like that. I'm coming like, hey, what's going on? And not that I'm accusing you of anything. I'm just bringing facts that were brought to me so that we can say, okay, these are truths. Now let's get the facts in there. And then you can say, oh, sorry about that. We were doing something you weren't supposed to know, yada, yada, yada. It was with such and such. I was with Dwayne. I was with Chris. I was with, Uncle Junior, Gabby. Cool. Then we can say, okay, other stuff I don't need to know. But if it's you sneaking and creep because you've been acting funny.
Yeah.
You ain't got to act funny to have something from your birthday.
I see a pattern here.
So now it's like, okay, if you got to do all of that after years and all that, years and stuff don't matter. If she's bored mentally, if she's moved already, she's gone. And that's not, it's like, okay, if you're going,
if she not planning my birthday party, then we got issues. I'm just saying, if it ain't my birthday party, my retirement party, we got issues.
But see, if she was doing those things, my friend wouldn't come to me saying that she is with somebody that I do not know.
Maybe your
And if
friend got
she
a
was
big
being
mouth and he gonna tell you.
what?
Wait, hold on. That was the point I was waiting on somebody to get to. When do we talk to the friend so that we can have a clear understanding of what he means by intimate? Because it could be you got to
Perception.
again, you got to understand something. Just because my friends don't know who that person is, that does not 100% like I'm laughing with Uncle Junior about the birthday because he's adamant about this birthday, right? But there is truth to what he is saying. Now, here's the problem. The problem is, in my opinion, we didn't address the behavior back when it happened. So the lies in the distance, that's on
Yep.
me. I
Yep.
let it slide.
Yep.
So now what has
Facts.
happened is that it has compounded. But I want to go talk to the friends, so I need to ask the brother some questions. Like, who's this cat you talking about? What
Right.
you mean intimate? You know what I'm saying? Let's have this conversation before I go home and wreck my entire house. Because if there's truth to it, and again, I done made the mistake because I done let all this compound it. Now I might be building up, like like Roland said, I might be at crazy now. You know what I'm saying? Because all of this is done fester. So yeah, I need to finish this conversation in its entirety first before I go home,
That is
want
why I
to
said I would figure out which friend, quote unquote, this is first.
Yeah.
That is why I said that in the beginning. I need to know which quote unquote friend is coming to me saying that they saw my lady out with some dude.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Because a lot of these quote unquote friends have motives that we do not know about. But
Well,
if
if
this
it's
is my
me,
day,
I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be checking. I'm gonna be looking at everything that's going on. I'm gonna be
that is
watching.
what
I'm like,
I'm
if this
saying.
girl, I'm gonna be right there looking.
If it's the day
Right,
ones,
day ones, I'm gonna
they're
be
going to
looking.
let me know what time it is.
Yep.
If you or Unc or Twame or Roland or Vic ever came to me and said, "Hey man, look, bro, I saw your girl out with this dude, man, and they look like they were having a good old time. Wine glasses and candles in the middle of the table and all of that." Okay, what did you see, bro? What did you see? Let's
I'm
air it
coming
all
to the
out now.
table. Hey, Miss Chris, how you doing? Hey, Miss McClellan, how you doing today? Ain't seen you in a while. How's everything?
See, but you gonna be at the
She gonna have to introduce me to her friend.
Yep.
you gonna be showing up at the hotel with a birthday hat on, blowing the whistle. So, woo, nah, that ain't.
Rwanda.
But
So
yeah,
the point,
that is what I'm saying. I would address where it is coming from first before I just go haywire. And even if it was coming from the day ones, I would still go into this like, all right, I am noticing a pattern, and it is not something that is conducive to this relationship. What has happened that has caused you to do this? If you feel like you need to explore other options, I would rather you be honest with me now than I find out like this. Be straight up with me because, like I always say, I cannot ask for something that I am not willing to give. I am always going to be straight up with you because I do not want to make us look bad. So if you are doing all of these things, plus you are doing all of these little yes, they are insignificant, but a lie is still a lie, whether it is insignificant or big. What is happening? You need to go explore. Go explore. But you cannot explore and be with me at the same time.
Brother Gaddy, what you got on this talking point, man, before we move on?
Man, y'all done hit it all. You jumped when you came in. You said exactly what I was thinking, which is what is the motive of the friend. First of all, like not saying that your friend is good or bad, whoever that friend may be. You know your friend like you know your significant other, but you gotta search out the motive or search out what they call an intimate dinner or lunch or whatever they were having. But in the same topic, I know for instance, my wife don't like to eat lunch too much at all. So if she had lunch with somebody and I don't know, she know I'm a little thrown off. So she know that ain't going down. And I know she throwed off. So she know if I'm out eating lunch with somebody and she didn't get a phone call first, and vice versa, but we both know neither one of us is wired too tight. So, but that's no, so that's what I look at when I talk about knowing each other. Y'all laugh at me, but in my mind, when you first read the scenario, you said, "What am I going to do?" I'm gonna be like Ja Morant on the way to the restaurant. But to be funny, but I think you gotta have the conversation, because at the end of it, because most conversations, I think the fear of having these crucial conversations are if not mostly, then always about the expected retaliation or the expected reaction, whether or not it's going to be negative or whether or not it's going to get even more uncomfortable. But it has to, either with the friend or with the significant other. And hey, let's figure out where we move on from there.
And I like your point, man. You know yourself, right? That's what I'm hearing you say. I know me, and I know how I'm gonna behave. So at the end of the day, we need to have this conversation and be completely transparent and get it all on the table. Because if not, the lack of information does not yield us moving forward in a positive manner. The lack of information or hiding, like my young brother here, Christian Barrow said, hiding your truth. And you guys know I love that phrase, by the way. Um, he said, "People who are prideful, they hide their truths." Right. So the more you hide, it does not yield a positive outcome. So that's kind of like what it is. So we talked about it earlier. We talked about trust. I think it was Chris you brought that to the table. And under the veil of leadership, what we understand is that transparency is the builder of trust. So the more transparent you are in the relationship, then trust can exist. But once you start hiding things and doing all this and doing all that, man, it just goes out the door. It is what it is. Okay, all great points, and I definitely appreciate your perspective. And again, I appreciate you guys in the chats. Loving what you're saying. Again, you're just lighting it up. Do me a favor, all of you guys, hit the like button. I would like to bring your talking points up, but we're kind of pressed for time at this point. But please keep adding value because I'm going to actually get to it. But again, hit the like button wherever you are. I don't care if you're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Well, we can't do Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever. Just hit the like button. Okay, moving on. What do we got next? All right, the opportunity it presents. So this concept kind of gets after the idea that there's a positive side to difficult conversations. Okay, the question under that is, what are the key elements that transform a difficult conversation into a productive one? Again, what are the key elements that transform a difficult conversation into productive ones?
I'm going to say one, and then I'm going to leave it to y'all. The main key element that can transform a difficult conversation into a productive one is understanding and getting that person to understand that you are not attacking them. You just see a pattern and you would like to discuss what is going on. You are not a bad person, but what you are doing is not sitting well with me, or what I am doing is not sitting well with you. Let's talk about it. You are not a bad person. I do not hate you. You are not going to be the subject of my next Facebook post. We just need to converse because I want you here.
I would say, for me, it's difficult, but it's simple to me. It's making the intentions of the conversation known. Um, I think sometimes when you don't make it clear what's the purpose driven behind this conversation, it can seem as if it's an attack versus a conversation to be had, right? So for me, I feel as if we don't do a good job sometimes in crucial conversations because sometimes emotions flare up, adrenaline get to running before you open your mouth and say something. But you have to be able to say, hey, this is what I see going on, and this is what I need resolved. And so then the response can come back more directed to clarification than defense. Because as soon as I feel attacked, I'm going to react to defend myself. But the moment I defend myself, I seem guilty of what you're accusing me of. So those things make it dysfunctional, right? So what makes it a productive conversation is if we're getting to the bottom line of this conversation, so that we can then turn around and say, now what is the answer? What's the fix? And what does that look like? Yeah.
So for me, I'll give two key elements that will transform a difficult conversation into a productive one is effective communication and transparency. I think when you have effective communication and all that goes into that, I think you can you can help support and facilitate that difficult conversation. When you are appropriate with your body language, your head movements, your eye movements, all of these different things, how you hold yourself, position your body, how you speak, your tone of voice, the inflection of your voice, all of these different things that go into effective communication. I think that's one thing that people really need to be aware about when it comes to having difficult conversations. The other part is being transparent. We're there with building a relationship. We need to be open. We need to be honest. Coach just mentioned that, hiding information is not good for the relationship, because it can be seen as though you're running around, you've been sneaky, and that there are other things that's going on that may or not even be, because of you're not being as open or not transparent with the information that's being discussed at the time. So like I said, for just me, two quick things. I know we strapped for time, so I would just say the two big key elements for me that will transfer a difficult conversation into a productive one is effective communication and transparency.
I think, I was like, dang, I'm gonna go last, and I think they're gonna take mine. But I think it's truth. I think truth has to be established here first. That would be the first element where, okay, what was going on, who you were with, when, this, that, and the other. And then you got to establish truth also says, am I truly treating my person properly? Am I treating her how she wants to be treated? Am I giving way to where somebody else can swoop in? Because I can look and say, man, I may be treating her like mess. And then somebody else, and now he Don Juan, Casanova, and all this other stuff. And I'm over here looking silly, thinking, oh, I'm God's gift to everything, but I'm not showing her the proper attention. So I got to get the truth all around, especially, and truth as in, do you still want this relationship? Do you want to, because that's, what it boils down to. Because if they're searching, if they are looking for anything, what's going on. So I would want truth all around so that we can determine where we go from here.
I like it. I like it a lot. I'm going to kind of spin off of what you just said, Roland. I want to go back to truth, because truth is the middleman. And so the middleman to me is the most important person in a relationship, the truth, not perspective. Perspective is just simply that, your version of the truth, which does not see outsides of reality. Again, the middleman is the most important thing. So if we understand that the relationship is more important than both you and I, and we keep the relationship in the center of the conversation, then we both speak to relationship, which is actually asking us in that moment, what is the best version of yourself that you can give to this conversation? The best version of yourself, like Roland said, recognizes that the person on the other side of the table, no pun intended, Chris, on the other side of the table is not my enemy. That's one of the hardest things that we have to come to grips with. The other person on the other side of the table is not a person I need to lie to, because they don't have handcuffs, they don't have a badge, and they don't have a patrol car downstairs waiting to take me to jail. So I think that's my perspective. The relationship is the most important thing, the most important person in the relationship. And ideally, that is the only person that knows the entire truth itself. Um, so great points, gentlemen, and thank you for that. I think we got one final question before we dive into our final thoughts. And that question is, how do you balance empathy and assertiveness when navigating difficult conversation? Rev Gaddy, I want to start with you, man, because I kind of feel like we were shutting you out tonight. So we're gonna let you in first.
I would say the way that you balance empathy and assertiveness is just be real. Be real. We try to sometimes you can try to force things to be too passive, or you can try to force things to be too aggressive to get a point across. Just be natural and organically have the conversation. Um, especially when you're having a conversation with someone that knows you, because when they feel as if you're being fake, they've already pulled themselves back and out of that conversation. So the first thing I would say is be real, be organic to you. Do what's natural, but be truthful and honest in what you're saying in your delivery. Because to 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 bring things to reality, you're going to express certain things with more assertiveness than you will other things. If it's something like, I didn't wipe down the mirror after brushing my teeth, you might not come in screaming and hollering unless we've had this conversation 100 times and I just won't do it. I probably won't do it. But if the conversation is something more deep to you, more dear to you, your organic emotion is going to be a little more assertive in the conversation. But it does not mean that I get to insult you in my delivery. It doesn't mean that I get to say things I know push your buttons. I think these are skills that I believe almost every married person that been through any type of premarital, marital counsel or whatever have heard. When they always talk about hitting below the belt, we know the things that trigger each other. You know what triggers your significant other. They know what triggers you. And so jumping on those things to get a reaction, that's how you lose that opportunity of empathy, because you don't care no more how what you say affects them, and you're asking for nothing but a negative reaction, right? So be organic, be assertive when you have to be assertive, get your point out, be clear, but don't go out your way to be offensive. That that's my take on this part.
I was looking at it, and how do you balance empathy and assertiveness when navigating difficult conversations? I kind of went back with more of communication and stuff again. Um, because in order to be empathetic, you have to display a certain level of communication. And what I mean by that is like it goes back to the body language pieces. You know what I mean? If I'm like I'm not being empathetic, like if she's like, hey, I don't feel like you value my opinion enough. I'm like, oh well, what the heck, man? You know what I mean? It's like I do value your opinion where I'm not being empathetic. My body language, my choice of words, how I'm over talking now is not being empathetic to whatever issue or situation that the person is having. So, um, however, at the same time, I do need to address her concerns or that person's concerns, and everything. This is a hard one. You know what I mean? Because it's almost like the answer is, I know I'm probably wrong. I could be way off. It's almost like the answer is in the question. It's like you have to have a certain amount of a balance in empathy and assertiveness when having a conversation. But how do you do it? And I think, just like I said, one of the things just for me is just the communication piece and just being an active listener. You know what I mean? Because I think sometimes people don't feel validated when doing the conversation because people are listening to respond sometimes, and people are maybe not validating other people's points or talking points because they're so busy trying to get their stuff out. So when you're actively listening, I think it sets a place or the tone or the mood where people can be more comfortable talking during the conversation. It doesn't, while at the same time not being, I don't want to say weak about it, but being a wimp about it. And when you need to assert, you be assert. But like I said, active listening will handle a lot of those different things.
Again, are you sure you want me to answer this question?
Yes,
My
sir.
vote is yes.
Make it concise though. Need it to be concise tonight.
How do you balance empathy and assertiveness when navigating a difficult conversation? You do not, because that is not up to you. The only empathy that you can assert is the fact that you are not using what you are discussing as an attack on their personal character. You just see a behavior that you need to discuss. After that, empathy is out of the window, because I need to know what is going on. I am not going to yell. I am not going to scream. I'm going to sit here I'm going to sit here just like this with my fingers crossed, and I am going to listen to you. But this will be addressed. And I need you to talk to me the way that you talk and not the way that I think you should talk, because I have already opened that door up for you. I cannot give you what I cannot ask of you what I cannot give. Speak to me in the language that you can speak to me in that is comfortable for you. But we need to fix this if we are going to go any further. Bottom line.
And I agree with Chris, because I don't think you can handicap me from responding like I respond or showing the emotions that I show simply because you don't like them. Like, I may be an emotion, I talk with my hands. I may be emotional. I'm not going to sit on my hands because you don't like me talking with my hands, or I seem a certain way. I'm not going to lower my voice to a passive voice like I'm trying to get with you, because right now I'm excited. I'm emotional. I'm in my feelings right now. So we can get it to a point to where we have some understanding. Like Chris said, you talk like you talk, I talk like I talk. There's no disrespect amongst either one of us, and let's get to it. Bottom line, point blank, and it'll merge to where those things, the empathy and everything, merge together, because we getting our points across, listening as well as talking.
This is why I love what you guys say, because most people confuse balance with equality. Equality and balance is not the same thing. I think what we need to understand, that once something balances out, you guys remember the old scale, you had to move the weight across the top to balance the scales, right? But when you got your fat behind on that scale, you had to move it some more. You know what I'm saying? That's just what the truth is. So, well, I'm sorry, not you, Garfield, but people like me. But here's the truth: when the environment has a degree of stability, when you change the environment, it is out of balance. So this is where the conversation comes in. Your behavior tells me which one is the one that I need to balance the scales. That's what it is. When the behavior is in a place where we're having adult conversation, empathy is the weight. Well, when your behavior is behaving in such a way that you're the most important person in the room, assertiveness is the weight. So your behavior tells me which weight I use to balance the scale. That's how it works. Once you learn to do this thing called self regulation, then again, empathy is the most important thing that I can bring to the conversation. And it will be so easy to address and see. So, again, great points. And thank you guys for that conversation in your comments. So that kind of takes us to, again, bittersweet moment, as always, because we hate leaving you for the evening, but we get to dive into our final thoughts. And that being said, we get to start with, I'm going to change it up, the funk with the Uncle Junior. So go ahead, brother. Uncle Junior, you got the floor.
Hey, man, I just want to start by saying most people, if you're in a relationship or with anybody on a job or anything, you're going to have a difficult conversation. One thing I think I vaguely remember Coach saying something about is get good at having difficult conversations. If I'm wrong, Coach will fill me in later. But at the end of the day, the better you are at communication and dealing with these conversations, the more effective they'll be. The more relationship that you have with said person that you are having, or the better the relationship that you have with said person or company or job or whatever, the better or the easier it may be to navigate those difficult conversations. At the end of the day, you have to remember that there's a place and there's a time to have every conversation. And just because one person is ready to have the conversation, it may not be the same time that the other person is having a conversation. And this is going to be different depending on who the people are who having a conversation. If you're with your child, you may not allow as much flexibility in when we have the conversation. If you're with your spouse, it may have to wait a little bit. If you're on your job, you need to talk to your boss or a coworker or something, you may have to adjust and be flexible with the time that you can have these conversations. But it's always good, and I think it's always better to have those difficult conversations, because like many people said, at the end of the day, I've heard it over and over on this show, is that good news does not get better with time. I'm out.
I'm gonna make so at least I think I'm gonna make it simple to me, right? I think a lot of times when we have in this conversation about difficult conversations, it's addressing the idea of us protecting our comfort. That doesn't exist in difficult conversations, right? Because when you protect your comfort, what you tend to do is you avoid the conversation. But when you don't have the conversation about the things that are bothering you, you tend to act out what you feel. You give people the cold shoulder. You go sleep on the couch, or you don't talk to them for 2 weeks, and then you say we just grew apart. We didn't grow apart. We never had the conversations that we needed to have, and now it's probably too late. So it seems as if we grew apart. No, y'all just grew bitter. So I'm just careful with the idea of protecting your comfort. Have the difficult conversations. Your comfort cannot be more important than the conversation, therefore more important than that relationship. Now, if you don't have a meaningful relationship in your life right now, and you can afford to lose them all because you don't like to talk, disregard everything I said. But for most of us, for the rest of us, we have relationships we value, whether they're business partners, co-workers, supervisors, spouses, or children. Have the conversation, peel the band-aid off. And it might be wrong. You might not have done it right the first time because you were uncomfortable and nervous. But have it. You get more comfortable in the conversation once you peel the band-aid off. That's it. I'm out.
Final thoughts. I said this before. Difficult conversations are a part of life. We must learn to have them, and we must learn that in a lot of cases, sometimes a difficult conversation will result in a loss. Do not be afraid of taking a loss to get something off of your chest, especially if it is bothering you. If there is a specific behavior that you need to address it. You do not want things to fester, because then a small thing becomes gigantic. Grow up, pick up the phone, have the conversation. Grow up, say we need to talk, let's get a time and a place together, and let's have the conversation. Do not run from them, because you will not like the result when things start festering up. And that is my final thought.
Wow. I think difficult conversations, people think difficult conversations always end in the negative. But I think when you have difficult conversations, it actually results in positives. Whether it's even if it's just a positive understanding, you have to go through some adversities in whatever you're doing, at work, in your job, at school, wherever, in order to get where you're going. And in relationships, getting to know that person may not always be peaches and cream. You will have your ebbs and flows, where you have ups and downs, you have ins and outs, and you have disagreements. But being able to talk about it and resolve issues is a maturity that everybody doesn't have. So I think it's just like having a baby. When you have a baby, it's fun at the beginning, at the start of it. And then when it's time to have that baby, it's you notice that there's some pains, there's some cussing, there's some grabbing, and there's some issues until the baby comes out. And then once that baby comes out, you can nurture it. It's the same way with the relationship. You have to be able to nurture that relationship after the difficulties, because the difficulties are just a mere formality if it's a long-term thing. You will go through things, but the maturing process, the perfecting process, is going through the adversity and getting over it, knowing that, man, I've built something with another person, and now we have an understanding of what difficult conversations can add to the relationship.
As always, we greatly appreciate these conversations. And again, when it comes down to difficult conversations, we need to understand that it's just like going to the gym. In order for you to get stronger, you're going to go through some stress. That stress is you're tearing muscle fibers. As you're tearing those muscle fibers, they have to repair themselves. When they repair themselves, the muscle actually gets stronger and bigger. Same thing happens with difficult conversation. The difficult conversation that exists during the span of that relationship is the tearing away of comfort zones, the tearing away of habits, so that you can expand your comfort zone within that relationship. If you can get to the point to where you can weather a storm in a fashion that is beneficial to the relationship, not beneficial to you or me, but beneficial to the relationship, then what you will find is on the backside of that, the relationship bounces back and it becomes stronger and bigger. So my invitation to everybody is don't have any anxiety when it comes down to having difficult conversations. Bad news, like Uncle Junior said, bad news doesn't get better with time. Let's have this conversation right now and let's get it over with so that we can move on to bigger and better things. I had a friend, one of the things that she used to say is, let's get back to loving. I think that's the key. What you want to do is you want to get, and listen, this thing that exists right now, the longer it exists, it becomes toxic. So we got to get out of that. We got to get out of that toxic state in the relationship because it destroys the environment, and get into that side where we can get to the place where the relationship is fuller and richer, the environment is healthy, and then we together can become that unit that's beneficial to everybody. So, that said, again, we appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys for staying a little extra tonight. We know it was a little long-winded, but we think this topic over the past over the past 3 weeks was well worth it. I hope we were able to add value to you and everybody else who hear it. Again, share this with somebody else. I think everybody needs to get to the point to where we progressively get better with difficult conversations. So on behalf of these gentlemen on the platform, we want to say thank you to everybody who's with us, everybody who's participated. We appreciate you. We value you. And just because we didn't get to you, Miss Adrian Artist, Miss Verlene McCoy, just because we didn't get a chance to bring those comments to that, we see you. We appreciate you. And again, we look forward to seeing you guys every week. So again, on behalf of the panel, have a great rest of your evening and have an even better weekend.